This is my channel, which is devoted to explaining my opinion, which differs from other people's opinion on the events that have happened socially and politically throughout the history of the world. The one I'm going to talk about today is the people that I refer to from the Bible called the Philistines, which I feel was a more successful society than history gives them credit for. What I'm going to be explaining today is the Philistines and the people that Plato referred to in his writing as the Atlantans, or from the island of Atlas, are the same people. And these Philistines were also the manufacturers and distributors of bronze during the Bronze Age, which their society probably lasted in the neighborhood of 4,000 years, which would be someplace in the neighborhood of 5,500 BCE to 1550 BCE. And during that 4,000 years, they manufactured and distributed bronze throughout the known world to them at the time, which was primarily the Mediterranean, but included the land to the north all the way up to the Scandinavian countries because of the trading of amber in the during this trading period, and all the way to India because of the trading of the spices. I'm going to be presenting uh, basically 20 to 30-minute videos on the topics that I talk about, and I'm going to be sharing what my opinion, which I think opinions are like snowflakes. Everyone is different, and no two are alike. So my opinions are different than other opinions I hear expressed, and I'm putting them out there so that people can investigate and see how much truth is being presented as opposed to how much fiction is being assumed as reality. Now, these people, uh, basically, I'm going to give reasons why I think that these people existed, and I am going to be referring to in my videos a lot of times to the Bible, because I think the Bible is a good historic document. I do not believe that it is a document that you can say can be 100% tied to reality, but it does give us an example of what the people that were telling it at the time believed. And in the Bible, the Philistines are mentioned very early on at being in the area of Crete. Now, Crete is important because Arthur Evans discovered in what he referred to as the Palace of Knossos, which was, in my opinion, a manufacturing facility of the Philistines. And it was one of the manufacturing facilities of the Philistines that allowed the Philistines to be the number one civilization on the face of the planet for 4,000 years. Now, that Philistine society was unique to every other society that has existed since the Philistines. The reason I mention this difference is that there was a difference in thinking and actions of the Philistines. The Philistines treated the women as absolute equals in the society. They were not, they did not take second place from males in any way, shape, or form. Now, at a later video, I will explain how I think this society formed. But the society was formed by 1550 BCE and encompassed initially the the island of Thera. They also had a development before they were destroyed in the island of Santorini, and they had 4 or 5 complexes on Crete. The complexes that the Philistines enjoyed were primarily manufacturing facilities. The Philistines encouraged other areas of population to participate in this trading society, and the Philistines primarily controlled the shipping during this 4,000 years. They had ships that could transport elephants, and the reason we know that is Plato told us they had elephants and monkeys on their island. Now, their island, if it were in, as I concluded, was the island of Thera. Thera was, at the time that it was destroyed, 100% developed. There was no undeveloped land on Thera. The difference in the society and the success of the society was the independence and the equality women enjoyed in the society. Every society since that time has been a form of a slave society, some more slaves than others. I happen to be fortunate enough to have been born and raised in the United States of America, and I look at that as the only free society that the world has known. As history has been revealed to me, I understand that I was wrong in a lot of assumptions. Number one is, how could we have been a free society when we clearly had several southern states in the United States of America that clearly had a society built on having slaves? And the slaves in the society basically make it a slave society. A slave society is determined as any time that any individual in the society, when they're human beings and they have a less than equal position with any other member of the society, it is a form of a slave society. When I say a free society, free societies are where every individual of the society has the freedom to make sure that he is not treated substandard as a human being in the society. Now, all of us have different skills and abilities. All of us have different IQs and intelligence. We all have things to offer to a society, and the society benefits by the amount of contribution that each member can make to that society. In a slave society, many people are not contributing fully, at the very minimum, to their ability. It is my opinion that human beings contribute more fully to their society when they consider themselves to be free and equal to every other member of the society. I am going to be giving this video a partial talk on the Philistines, why I believe, it's my opinion, that they were in fact the Atlantans that Plato talked about, and why we know very little about them. My videos will cover my opinions and will fill in future videos areas that seem to be lacking. When I talk about male personalities in my videos, I'm talking that males are born with and have what I would refer to as a horsepower engine. The reason for concluding that is men always want to be better than the people around them at something, whether it's a particular sport or a particular intelligence or a spelling bee. The men are motivated to make sure they come out ahead of their fellow competitors. The difference between men and women is that women basically have more of what I would refer to as a love engine. And by a love engine, I mean the women are more innately gifted with the idea of getting along and making it work with whatever they have to deal with. During my videos, I will be referring to the horsepower engine and the love engines and making those comparisons. And you need to understand what I am referring to is the power that people have in this society. In this Philistine society, the women primarily were the manufacturers of the olive oil and wines and the packaging of the materials that were to be exported. The men basically were more capable of rowing the ships and therefore were more capable of handling the positions of rowing the ships and delivering the manufactured goods. The plant at Kenosis will be the major part of this talk, which will explain this part, in my opinion, why it's part of the larger picture of the Philistine society, which is synonymous with the people we know as the Atlantans. The reason that Plato has this story is it's written on the walls of the Egyptians, on the walls of Egypt. The Egyptians gave the story to a Greek ambassador who relayed the story to Socrates, and Plato overheard the story when he was young. Over the years, Plato was able to investigate a lot more than we have today because they had the library at Alexandria, and there was a lot of documents that were constructed that people knew back then what the documents were referring to, and they had not only the written history, they had an oral history that went with it. Unfortunately, most of that history is lost to us. So I will be drawing conclusions from what I see. A lot of my conclusions are a result of the constructed things that were done as a result of the manufacturing and distribution on the part of the Philistines. Some of my conclusions are what I see in the structure at Kenosis. It was 3 to 4 stories high. It was earthquake resistant. Unfortunately, the structure was destroyed by a tidal wave. The tidal wave happened on 1550 BCE as a result of the eruption of the volcano on Thera. When the volcano erupted on Thera, Thera was probably around 300 feet above sea level. And when the volcano finished erupting a day later, the volcano was 1,000 foot below sea level. That is the only recorded incident we're aware of where there was something one day that was 300 foot above sea level, that was probably an island 5 to 10 miles wide, that was 100% developed. When it finished erupting, the island was 1,000 foot below sea level. Everything from 1,000 foot below sea level to the 300 foot above sea level was all incinerated. The people were cremated in a 24-hour period. And from the writings that we have, it is quite clear that no one was alive that could witness what had happened. If you were close enough to see the volcano erupting, the heat or the gases of the volcano took you out as well. So there was no human beings that could explain to the world what happened as a result of the eruption of the volcano and why the island of Thera no longer existed, and that also completely destroyed the the overwhelming majority of the uh, smelting facilities that was one of the major distribution items in the society, and that was the blending of copper with tin. The copper was more plentiful throughout the Mediterranean area. The tin was not so plentiful. During this time period, some tin did come from Cyprus that got the ball rolling for the Philistines. But within a very short time, the tin had to be brought in from Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan is not a seaport. So we know now that the Philistines used land transportation in order to run their manufacturing facility. And the land transportation, in my opinion, was a major route going over from Europe through Germany into the Scandinavian countries that brought back the traded products there, which included amber. The other major trade route they had was down through the Levant, which is the Tigris and Euphrates River area, all the way to the Indian Ocean. And from there, it went over to India, which is what was referred to as the Indus Valley area. The Indus Valley area had a population of about 2 million people when it started declining in 1550 BCE. Part of what made it prosper was the fact that they were trading as a result of what the Philistines had created and was basically benefiting from for this 4,000 year period. During this 4,000 year period, the fact that the women were absolutely equal is what gave the Philistines the ability to deal with every other city, state, or culture that had numerous people that created a trading opportunity. They also traded with the hunters and gatherers. The Philistines were able to trade with any human being they could find any place within their trading ability. That is one of the reasons that the Amazon women that we are aware of had as their two weapons a bow and arrow, because the Amazon women were primarily hunters and gatherers, and the Amazon women had the bow and arrow, and they were very proficient at riding a horse and in shooting the bows and the arrows at animals. And then they also had a double-headed bronze axe as one of their major things they carried. When they wounded an animal, if the animal was only wounded, when they hopped off of their horse and they swung the bronze axe, which would have been heavy enough that after they started swinging would do the job to finish the animal off. So the Amazon women, primarily from about 3000 BCE on, all had bronze axes available to them. For this part of the video, I'm going to end it here. We have about a 20-minute video, and I want to thank the people for watching it. And if you're interested in what we have to present, or it seems interesting to you to investigate in the future, I want to give you the opportunity to subscribe to this channel so that you can follow the things that we post. We will be posting as we can, as often as possible, to fill you in on the history as we envisioned it happened, that we have actually drawn conclusions from the knowledge that the archaeologists have exposed to us, and what we think is beneficial to the people of the world in learning from the history that our forefathers and predecessors have had on this planet. We have a fantastic time that we've lived in. We've gained a lot more advantages as far as inventions over the past, actually 3,000 years, since the Philistines were destroyed. So we have not had as large of a, as long of a time to develop as they did. But on the other hand, we have had a lot more fighting and destruction going on in our society than they had back then. We have what I refer to, since the destruction of the Philistines, it's been for human beings, what I refer to from 1550 BC until the current day, the murder and mayhem years, because the ultimate attitude of a horsepower engine is, if it doesn't agree with you, kill it. And unfortunately, for the last 3,000 years, many human beings have adopted that attitude, and a lot of destruction has happened. Now, despite the destruction, we have been able to harness electricity and produce electricity, which has made a world of difference between us and the Philistines. For now, this video is going to terminate. And as I said before, if you're willing, I appreciate you hitting the subscribe button, and I will get back to you with my next video as soon as possible. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.